Now we will see what will happen when we are combining two capacitors in this way. Initially it is having total energy. What is the total energy? Total energy due to first capacitor plus energy due to second capacitor. So total energy initial is equal to half C1 V1 square plus half C2 V2 square, because we have two separate capacitors, right, having two different energy, half C1 V1 square plus half C2 V2 square. Now this is the total energy. After combining them in this way, we know that charges are moving from higher potential to lower potential. So one thing is very sure, whenever charges are moving, it will take certain amount of energy from initially stored energy to do work. So taking a charge from one position to another position will use certain energy. Why? A work is done while taking it from one potential to another potential. So we are taking charges from this potential to this potential. So work is done. For that, energy is consumed from the system. So from the total initial energy. So one thing is very sure, that the final energy, TE final, total energy final, will be less than total energy initial, because there is charges transportation here which needs some work to be done. So that will take certain amount of energy from the total initial energy. Now what is the final energy? Total energy final, we can use half CV square for the equation, where C is the combined capacitance and V is the common potential when we are combining in this way. Okay, now half, what is C? C effective, C1 plus C2. Now what is common potential? This one, C1 V1 plus C2 V2 divided by C1 plus C2. This is total energy final. Okay, now total energy initial minus total energy final will be the change in energy, or that much amount of work is required while this charges transport is done. Now total energy initial is half C1 V1 square plus half C2 V2 square, minus total energy final is half C1 plus C2 into C1 V1 plus C2 V2 divided by C1 plus C2 the whole square, because this is the common potential, right? One thing is very clear from here, this is C1 plus C2 and other one is C1 plus C2 the whole square. So I can give the square separately to these two terms, and out of that I can cancel 1. Okay, so this is C1 plus C2 here. Now what I can do, I can take common term out, half into, this will be C1 V1 square plus C2 V2 square, one term, and this is another term. So this is one term and the other term is C1 V1 plus C2 V2 the whole square divided by C1 plus C2. Okay, now do the LCM. What is LCM? Cross multiply this. So C1 into this one the whole term, then C2 into the whole term, then expand it. So this will be half into, so multiply this. So C1 square V1 square plus C1 C2 V2 square, C1 C2 V2 square, then multiply with C2 plus C2 C1 C2 V1 square plus C2 into C2 V2 square will be C2 square V2 square. What I have done, I have multiplied C1 with these two terms, then C2 with these two terms, and I have added minus, this is A plus B the whole square. What is that? C1 V1 square minus of plus C2 V2 square. So C2 A square, C1 square V1 square plus B square, C2 square V2 square plus 2AB, that is 2C1 C2 V1 V2 the whole divided by, what is the LCM? C1 plus C2. Now let's take this term to this side. What is that? Half C1 square V1 square plus C1 C2 V1 square plus C1 C2 V2 square. So this is V2 square. C1 C2 V2 square, then plus C2 square V2 square, then multiply minus inside, minus of C1 square V1 square minus of C2 square V2 square minus of 2 C1 C2 V1 V2, the whole divided by C1 plus C2. So the C1 square V1 square and minus C1 square V1 square will cancel, and C2 square V2 square and minus C2 V2 square will cancel, and from this we will take C1 C2 in common. So half C1 C2, if I am taking from this, I will have V1 square inside. From this, when I am taking, I will have V2 square inside. From this, when I am taking 2 V1 V2, I will have divided by C1 plus C2. What is this? A square plus B square minus 2AB, that is A minus B the whole square. So this will be half C1 C2 into V1 minus V2 the whole square divided by C1 plus C2. This is the delta E. What is delta E? Energy, which for CBSE students this is very important. Energy lost while connecting two capacitors which are charged initially with Q1 Q2 at a potential of V1 V2. This is the change. This is the change in energy, that is initial energy minus final energy. Thank you.